Hey folks, and welcome back to Glenn and Adrian's Rock Talk. That's Adrian.
And that's Glenn.
And today we are going to return to looking at The Church, a band from Australia from the 80s and 90s, and in fact they're still making music today and still touring, which is great news. 10, 15 years ago they had a reunion concert. We actually looked at a clip from that one. It was Under the Milky Way. I'll leave that in the cards for people to take a look at. So the link will show up under the description to this video. And that was really cool. And the song was great and all. And so we wanted to keep looking at The Church. And their very next album was called Gold Afternoon Fix. They had had some issues creating the album that had Under the Milky Way on it, which was the last album. That's the one from 1988. It was called Starfish. It was produced partially by Waddy Wachtel. And they didn't really get along with Waddy. They had to move to LA because they'd just gotten this, major label record deal. And that was their first album on the record deal, was Starfish. So they have to relocate to Los Angeles, and they had all kinds of hassles. They still managed to make what's probably considered a classic album in Starfish. Then the follow-up, they wanted to change things up, but they really couldn't. The record label said no, and so they sent them back to LA and back to Waddy Wachtel for a second album. It wasn't the huge follow-up they were hoping for. There was still some interesting songs on it, though, and we're going to look at one of those today called Metropolis. This was a single off the album. I think it did pretty well, pretty good airplay. The single made it to, mainstream rock chart had it at number 11, and alternative airplay, it was number 1. So with that in mind, why don't we go ahead and take a look at this? And this is credited to the entire band. This is going to be on a show in German television, live aus dem Schlachthof, May 21st, 1990. Adrian, any questions or any commentary ahead?
Sounds like this video is from about 21 years earlier than the other video we did on The Church.
That's right.
The last one was from 2011.
At this point, they had been a band for about 10 years, but yeah, it is much earlier than the other one. So you see them closer to their prime. All right, let's go ahead, check it out, and talk about it after.
Alrighty.
Nice guitars.
There'll never be another quite like you. I'm so involved with everything you do. Don't say nothing good will ever come of this. Don't say the damage is worse than it
Like
is.
in Metropolis, circuses and elephants, where the oranges grew. And back in Metropolis, I'm thinking at the top of this, when I'm standing with you.
You stared down at some crowd from your trapeze. And when you fell, they fell down on their knees. And when you broke, they scrambled for a piece. And when you spoke, I felt their anger
Back in
freeze.
Metropolis, circuses and elephants, where the oranges grew. And back in Metropolis, I'm thinking at the top of this, when I'm standing with you. And back in Metropolis, talk about a Holocaust, and then visit the zoo. And back in Metropolis, the weather is ridiculous. What's it all leading to? And it's only a day away. We could live tonight. You can sleep along the way, dreaming black and white.
I know a lot of times I mess up the lyrics or whatever, but it sounded like this guy was singing at one point, back in Metropolis, circuses and elephants where the oranges grew. Fortunately, he sang it a couple of times, so
Let's go ahead and
listen to it again.
yeah, let's take a look at the lyrics for just a second here. I'm pretty sure that was a mime, by the way, but they did a pretty good job of miming it. But
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting line, though. Back in Metropolis, circuses and elephants where the oranges grew. Okay.
Right. Back in Metropolis, nothing can ever topple us. I think that's pretty good. When I'm standing with you. They're kind of a somewhat, almost a psychedelic sounding band, kind of more would call it neo-psychedelia or what have you. But
Yeah, that's what the music sounds like. It kind of sounds like rather alternative 80s or 90s indie, more sophistication added to it, perhaps.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, you're right. They are interesting lyrics. You stare down at some crowd from your trapeze, and when you fell, they fell down on their knees. And when you broke, they scrambled for a piece, of your broken self on the ground. And when you spoke, I felt their anger freeze. So it is a very interesting kind of stream of consciousness, kind of trippy, dreamy, kind of a lyric writing.
I guess so.
Yeah, back in Metropolis, the weather is ridiculous. What's it all leading to? Talk about a Holocaust, then visit the zoo. Yeah, and it's only a day away. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Looks like there are some people in the audience, but what are they doing? They're not jumping around and dancing and cheering, and they're just sitting around. Oh, they're sitting down around dinner tables. Is what they're doing.
Yeah, that was, I believe they call that a supper club. And I've seen, there's actually a venue like that here in the D.C. area called the Birchmere. And it's just like that. It can hold 500 people, and it's all tables. And yeah, a significant number of the crowd at any moment has their back turned. They try to minimize it. They have the tables in such a way that mostly you're just going to look this way all night, or this way, you're going to look one way. I've seen a number of bands there that were really good. I saw David Crosby there once, and he made it clear that he wasn't too happy about playing at what he called a supper club. It's like, this is ridiculous. Getting an audience, having an auditorium where everybody's facing you, that's the way to go. But having waiters, waitresses, waitstaff around, taking your drink orders and stuff, it's a little, it's a different experience. So he made that really clear that night. I thought that was kind of funny. This was 2015, for those of you who wonder. He was on a solo tour. He had just had a guitar tech with him and like 12 guitars. And they just, every time he did a new song, he had a new guitar on.
That would be nice to see Dave Crosby, even if it's at a supper club.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to see him. But anyway, so I'll just make note of the other names in the band. Peter Kops was the rhythm guitar player. He's actually a pretty underrated player in general. He adds some really cool stuff, but you don't hear his name that often. The guy that does the leads, usually off to stage left of Steve Kilby, is named Marty Wilson Piper. He was the guy playing the Rickenbacker there. That's kind of his typical thing. And then Richard Plug is the drummer. And he actually left shortly after this album, ending of his time with the band. I just think they're a really interesting group, kind of an underground band, but I think they're a little on the underrated side. I enjoy their music anyway.
Yeah, they're good.
All right, folks. Well, why don't you let us know what you thought of this clip, of this song, of this band. If you knew about any of them before this, let us know what your experiences were. And if you have suggestions for us, leave those below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you enjoyed our presentation, please subscribe. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right. Take care, folks.
See you all later.